Good morning. It's just approaching 26 minutes to 8 on this Thursday morning, the 9th of April. Now, something that a lot of people are doing at the moment during the coronavirus outbreak is getting a daily dose of numbers and statistics. It's kind of released on an afternoon, isn't it? The number of confirmed cases, sadly, the number of people who pass away due to the corona, this kind of thing. And it can be a bit overwhelming, and people have found themselves sort of sitting there tracking whether it's gone up, gone this. Well, it's okay to be worried is the message from a Bradford doctor offering to lend people a sympathetic ear. Dr Aziz Hafiz is part of a new hotline which can help people understand things like the symptoms, worries about finance, and even things like the strategy behind the current stay-at-home rules and regulations. It's been set up by a humanitarian charity, Humanity First UK, and I'm delighted to say the good doctor is with us. Dr Aziz, good morning to you.
Good morning. Hi there, Richard. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Have I done you justice there? Have I explained what it is that you do and why you do it?
You have. Humanity First UK is a UK-based disaster relief charity that's been going around about 25 years, based in Surbiton. We've got disaster-trained volunteers across the UK. Obviously, with the huge needs with the national emergency, as the Prime Minister has asked every section of society to contribute, the charity sector, the voluntary sector, the state, the NHS. So what we've set up is a national support line run by trained professional volunteers. And we offer two essential areas. Firstly is psychosocial support, just a friendly voice to have a chat with, considering a lot of people are under an immense amount of pressure. And secondly, it's providing services primarily for the shielded population, ensuring that we have our trained volunteers out there delivering groceries and medicines. So this is the mainstay of our work. At the same time, we're signposting to government guidance. There's immense amount of guidance that the government is issuing on a daily basis, and sometimes it can be quite overwhelming just to get your head around everything. So it's just trying to sift through that, to just explain things to people as best and as simply as we can.
What's the main sort of things you get called at? I mean, there's a lot of things people can call you about. What are you finding are the main concerns for people who pick up the phone to speak to you?
I mean, probably over 70% of the callers that we're getting are a lot of people just quite anxious. They're quite anxious about what's happening. Clearly, the emergency is huge. There's no denying. But with the 24/7 news media, despite their best efforts at trying to relay information, it can be quite overwhelming when it's 24/7 in your face all the time. And it can cause a lot of anxiety to people that would not normally necessarily be quite anxious.
Do you think as well it's because it's the conversation on everyone's lips? I mean, I've got to say here, and I've said this a couple of times on this programme over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've done this job for too long now, Dr Aziz, and my main mantra is to tell people to keep listening. But at the moment, if you want to turn off, I think that's what you need to do, be it your television, your radio, or put your newspaper down. But when I'm out walking the dog for my daily exercise, all people want to tell me is what they've heard, what they've seen on Facebook, what the next door neighbour has said, what their uncle who lives next to a nurse has. I mean, it is dominating the conversation. That's the problem, isn't it?
You're right. You're absolutely right. It is dominating the conversation. And sadly, within that domination of the conversation, there's a lot of misinformation that's come through, and not necessarily out of any ill intent. You will have heard the government's attempts at trying to control misinformation. And sometimes things are coming through on Facebook, through family, through friends, and not out of any ill intent. That's forwarded on purely because you feel that it may add value. But we tell all people that call us, our friends and colleagues, that you must really check the source of that information, because there's a lot of things that are just shot from the hip, and it can cause a lot more harm than benefit, sadly. It's just information overload, sadly.
What would you say to someone? This is almost a state of mind question, if you don't mind, because I'd hate for anybody to be sat listening to this who was afraid. That isn't what we've tried to do at all on the radio station. I hope we haven't. What would you say to them? What would be your advice to them?
I would say one thing. Both the state and all information providers, be they the radio, the TV, they're primarily trying to get the message across. The message across to keep everybody safe. All the messages that you're hearing about staying at home, about protecting the NHS, saving lives, they are ultimately there to save your life. But it may sound very overwhelming. So I think that's the underlying message that people need to take. And at times, it can create anxiety, but the intention is not to create anxiety. The intention is purely to save our lives.
Dr. Aziz, thanks for talking to us this morning. And that advice line, which is manned by Humanity First UK, is open between 8 in the morning and 8 at night. And the number is 0333 880 6619. That's 0333 880 6619.